Welcome to the Jazz Notes Podcast. I'm Ben Anderson.
I'm Chandler Holt.
We are recording this on October 20th, 2 days before the beginning of the Utah Jazz season, 1 day before the beginning of the NBA season. We have made it through the summer, the off season. These have become very long off seasons, obviously, for the Jazz, which start just before the All-Star break and in late October. But yeah, this felt like a particularly long off season to me. Not painful, just long, and certainly a bit tumultuous with the goings on in the lottery and the Jazz not having any success in the lottery, falling to 5, still getting Ace Bailey, then him showing out in the ways that he did. So a very interesting summer for the Utah Jazz. We are going to go through some of our season predictions, as we always like to do. This is our third year doing this now. Very cool. I'm glad you've been around as long as you have. And we'll answer your mailbag questions as always. Find us on Twitter at Ben's Hoops and C Holt Sports, Twitter, Blue Sky, whatever, X. And we will respond to them in the mailbag section of the show to wrap up every show. Let me ask you this quickly. Did the Jazz have a good offseason?
Yes.
I think so.
I would say yes. I think that in past years we were sort of like, okay, the Jazz have flexibility, but what's the plan? And we've also talked about how you can't necessarily have a cemented plan, but it's still good to have a direction. And I feel like now the Jazz's direction is more clear than ever. And I think that is a successful offseason.
It will obviously depend on how good Ace Bailey turns out to be and how good Walt Clayton turns out to be. And if either one of them ends up being like a high-level starter, that doesn't even mean all-star necessarily, but a high-level starter, I think you had a pretty good offseason. I think clearing out the room with John Collins, Colin Sexton, and Jordan Clarkson was probably the right step, though I liked all of those guys. John Collins has been absolutely feasting with the Clippers early on, and he is going to. He's going to look really, really good with the roster that they have and all the players around him, and I think he's going to come off the bench and be a really, really good player there. Maybe he starts. We will get to see him on Wednesday night, when the Jazz host the Clippers. But I think John's going to look really good. I think Colin Sexton's going to be exactly what he was for the Jazz, just for the Hornets, which is not a bad thing. Colin's a good player, and he can give some identity to lineups that lack it, and Charlotte lacks identity altogether, so I think that's beneficial.
I also think that Colin Sexton is kind of a culture setter from the guard position as like an energetic, like 48 minutes kind of guy. And I think that the Hornets are one of the teams that need culture the most in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a mess.
Yeah.
And then Jordan Clarkson going to the Knicks is like just my dream for a person I really like and a team that I think is really cool and playing in an environment where, we know Jordan's not good every game. Yeah. We know like Jordan's not the most consistent six-man, but his big games, and he'll put up, I would imagine, a 30-point game. Like he kind of tends to do that. He gets on hot and he goes on heaters. Like he's going to have a game where he's standing at midcourt at Madison Square Garden with his arms out, like, and it just looks awesome. And I hope to see that. Yeah. So I'm happy about that for Jordan specifically because I really like Jordan. But otherwise, I do think the Jazz have just kind of committed to the bit of just like the young guys are going to play. They're going to play a lot. They're going to be in the starting lineup. They're going to make up most of the second unit. And then there's going to be window dressing with, Yusuf Nurkic, and we'll see what Kyle Anderson can do because I've got some thoughts on Kyle. And Kevin Love will be here and there, and George Niang will eventually be healthy and come back and play. So I wrote a big article, by the way, this past week over like, how does Will Hardy find minutes for all these guys? I do think that's the big question of just like, I think two of the young players are just not going to play. If you play a 10-man rotation and Lowry's going to play and Walker's going to play, and I'm pretty sure George Niang is going to play, and Yusuf Nurkic is going to play, like that's 12 guys with the 8 young players. So 2 of those young players are probably not going to play. And it'll be curious to see who that is. I have an idea. I have a sense of it, but I think that I also think it will change pretty rapidly.
That's what I was about to say for it changing rapidly. I wouldn't be surprised, and this is just an example, but say Keontae has a 1 for 10 game with 5 turnovers, or just someone's coming off of a bad practice day or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if they get less minutes or even don't play in a game, and someone else gets to step up that game.
And a back-to-back. Someone's in a back-to-back. It's a young player who's used to playing 35 games in college, and now all of a sudden they have to play 82 games, and you're expected to play 25 minutes a night. Give him a night off. Certainly take it slow with Taylor as he comes back from that leg injury. All right, let's start with what happened this week. We have seen 2 more preseason games since we last talked.
First, a loss to the Mavericks, 114-101. And then the first and only and last game, it was a win for the Jazz over the Blazers, 132-129. That was a crazy game. I think they were down like 13 with 2.5 minutes left or something like that, and then stormed all the way back to get that win.
So the big story is that Ace Bailey didn't play against the Trailblazers and then left the game halfway through the Mavericks game with knee tendonitis. And it sounds like it's in both knees. I didn't get the sense it was in one knee or the other. Will Hardy said they weren't doing imaging. It's not like a serious thing at all. He really downplayed it. So I was surprised that then he didn't play against Portland because he said that right after the Dallas game. I haven't heard anything about his availability coming up Wednesday. Obviously, he's not just a big part of the team. He is the future of the team. Yeah. I mean, the Jazz are trying to not paint it that way, but it's going to quickly emerge. As long as he's on the floor, that's the case.
Yes.
The only thing that will stop that is if he's not on the floor very often. And, he did have the groin / whatever hip flexor injury in summer league, and he only played 2 games, and he only really played 2.5 games in preseason. This is the time to be careful with him. I do hope the Jazz take the kid gloves off when they're handling him and just say, you got to go play.
Yeah.
And he played a lot at Rutgers, so I don't necessarily think he has that resume as somebody or reputation as somebody who doesn't play a lot of games. Dylan Harper missed way more games at Rutgers than did Ace Bailey. But I hope this isn't a consistent case because that would be maybe the worst outcome for Jazz fans, which is you tank the season, you randomly fall into the right guy, and then the right guy's never available.
Yeah.
That would be really brutal.
True.
So we'll see. We'll have to keep an eye on whether he plays or not Wednesday. We don't know.
In that Mavericks game, it was a rough one. The Jazz shot 40% from the field, under 30% from 3. Sensabaugh, he led the team in scoring with 16 only.
Second leading scorer in the NBA preseason overall. I think only behind Cade Cunningham, who was at 23 points a game, and Bryce was at 22.
Which is awesome.
Yep.
And then over against the Blazers, Keontae had 20 points and an awesome game. I want to talk more about that Keontae game. Markkanen and Safi both had 15, and then Walker had 14.
Walker also had, 12 rebounds and 8 assists?
Yeah.
Walker
almost
was
a triple-double.
Really, really good.
The Jazz finished top 10 in the preseason for points per game.
Okay.
Don't ask about the defense, but they finished top 10 in points per game. I want to talk about Keontae. Like I said, 20 points. I can pull up the rest of his stats, but also one thing that stuck out to me was I think it was in the third quarter. He threw an absolutely abysmal overhead pass, looking to the corner, just went right into the defender's hands. But then he gets back and on defense and skies up and gets the block. I'm just seeing things from Keontae that I'm not sure I have seen or would have expected a year or two ago. Don't get me wrong, Keontae has never been a problem with his hustle, but also I talked about in the Spurs game a week ago how he found Walt on the fast break for that the dunk to tie the game. And we may talk about this later when we get into the Jazz preseason predictions for the awards, but I am liking what I see from Keontae.
Keontae, again, this feeds into a couple of things, and we'll unwind this conversation. We'll get there eventually, but Keontae's best asset is when he plays hard.
Yeah.
When he plays hard, there's a real difference. Now, he got to let the game come to him. He can't be like, well, I got to shoot because I haven't shot in 4 possessions. Yes. That's the worst Keontae. But Keontae playing hard, running back on defense, getting that block shot. You remember the block against Kevin Durant last year? There was clearly a time when Will Hardy pulled him aside at some point last year. It was like, this is make or break for you right now. You've got to figure out if you want to be in this rotation. And for 3 straight games, he played awesome defense. It's the tools are there. It's almost where I wonder if the best outcome for Keontae George is as a second unit player, where he plays 18 to 22 minutes a night. He just burns up his energy every second he's on the floor. And that might be picking up at 65 feet. Yeah. That might be go be TJ McConnell defensively, wreak havoc, run around, make trouble, even if it's not you're playing perfect defense. I don't think he's a great man-to-man defender. He just doesn't move his body particularly well. Guys push him out of the way because he's not that strong that way. But maybe he just needs to run out there and just cause havoc by playing free safety a little bit. And that's a term I'm going to use again for Taylor Hendricks coming up in a little bit. But maybe that's what he needs to be, is just a guy who you can feel him because it's a little crazy on the defensive side of the ball versus, well, I'm in my base, but I'm just bad at it. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. I wonder if there could be some value for him there, and that's not what starting point guards do. So it lends itself to him not being a starting point guard.
Yeah.
Which does feed into my belief, and we get a question about it, so I don't want to feed into it, which is that Walt Clayton will eventually be the Jazz's starting point guard. I do think Walt has looked good. He's not shot the ball well. Walt shot 90% from the free throw line in college, 88%, and well over 35% from 3. The shots will fall for Walt. Yeah. They're just not right now. He is running the show very well.
True.
Walt looks very comfortable running the show, and maybe his most impressive thing, which Kevin O'Connor tweeted it out, so credit Kevin. I noticed it during the game against Portland. Drew Holiday was picking him up 75 feet from the basket, and he broke the pressure like nothing. And look, Drew, you can look at the playoffs last year. Drew is not the defender he once was. But Drew is still one of the great defenders in the NBA and should ruin rookie point guards. And Ace, there's one possession specifically. It's the one where Walt breaks the pressure, kind of spins past Holiday, kicks the ball over to Nurkic, cuts backdoor on Holiday, gets the ball back, runs under, does a Nash probe dribble, and then kicks it out for, I think, a wide open three, and they score. And it's just like, if you were to watch that and you were to kind of black out the players, you couldn't tell who it was, you would think that the veteran was Walt Clayton and that the rookie was Holiday, who just could not stay with him. And it was the total opposite. So it was really, really impressive. That type of stuff matters.
Yes.
And it was a big question about Walt. Like, is he going to be able to bring the ball up the floor? If you can do it against Drew, you can do it against anybody.
True.
So that's a good sign. You just being able to get into the offense is a thing, especially for young players. I think he can do it.
But yeah, I'm pulled up the stats now. Keontae 7 for 11 against the Trailblazers, 3 for 6 from 3. I would just say that, and again, it's preseason, you can't read too much into it, but I would say Keontae has played like the better Keontae. Like we talked about game 1 and game 2 Keontae on the podcast last week. I feel like he was the better version of himself for maybe 60-70% of the preseason. Okay. And like previous years, I would say it's like 40% maybe.
You're right. The flashes are more common, more consistent, which is his ticket.
Yeah.
Because the good of Keontae is really good. He's just got to do it like, ideally, he would do it 100% of the time. Realistically, like best case scenario would be 90% of the time. What you have to hope for might be 60% of the time. And then that's what Jordan Clarkson is, right? Yep. Best Jordan Clarkson is a 6th man. He won 6th man of the year. On a good team, if he can do it more nights than not, he's really valuable. If he can't do it more nights than not, he's not very valuable. And that's where Keontae's going to have to figure it out, which is why I do still think he's going to be a 6th man going forward, most likely. Because your 6th man, you can live with the highs and lows, kind of ebbing and flowing more commonly than you can with a starter. And I think Walt's going to be very solid. I will say Keontae benefited immensely from having Walker back on the court.
True.
Walker, unlike Nurk, and Nurk is so fun to watch. Like, Nurk might be my favorite player. Just because I love old school bigs. And he's not old school. Like but he kind of has the, the big body, lumbering. I'm going to stand in the post, or I'm going to go high post, and I'm going to like pick you apart with passes. It's very, it's Sabonis-y. It's fun. I mean, old Sabonis, Arvydas, not necessarily his son, but he does it as well. It's fun to watch. I love watching the way Nurkic plays. It's not particularly effective to winning because he gives it all back on defense. Yeah. So it's just a net 0, if not a net negative overall. He's really fun to watch. But Walker runs the floor so fast. Like, Walker really can beat his man up the floor, which means he gets easy baskets, or he draws defenders in, and that creates threes on the perimeter for other guys. That's really beneficial. And Keontae benefited from that.
Yes.
Keontae actually can play well playing fast. I don't think Keontae's very good of like, half-court system, set it up, let's drop a good play every time. I don't think that's Keontae at his best. That's where, again, I think Walt's going to be really good. But he benefited from the amount of space and the amount of attention that Walker creates by either running the floor in transition or setting a high screen and rolling really hard, which Nurk can't roll hard. I mean, it's big, but it's not fast. So there's no rotation needed to stop him. And I'm really curious to see how Ace Bailey plays off that, because Ace could really benefit off that. If you are helping off Ace is showing right now he's a deadly 3-point shooter, especially in the corners. If he's open, I feel like that ball's going in. He's going to benefit. It's where the Jazz offense is going to work, because George Niang's also going to kill off those. Lowry, we know, is going to kill off of those. Walt eventually will start to make those shots as well. But the value of Walker was on full display against Portland. And again, the 8 assists, very cool. I hope he plays that way. If he's learning something from Nurkic and realizing like, hey man, there's a ton of passes there because you draw attention. You can rack up assists. That would be great. And that would really help him. And he will get a max contract if he averages 5 assists a game this year and 3 blocks and, a double-double. He becomes that 5th best center in the NBA that I've kind of teased, and like the true 5. But Walker was super, super impressive. Yeah. And of course, he hit the 1 3 that he made, and he has talked about how making shots on the perimeter remains important for him. I don't expect him to shoot a lot, but that 3-play, 2-possession stretch where he blocks or hits the 3, then blocks the 3, runs the floor, gets the dunk on the touchdown pass from Taylor Hendricks for the dunk. It's like, that's unique. That's a very special player if that can become real. And we saw that a lot from Walker last year. Not the made 3 necessarily, but like impacting the game beyond just like, I'm a rim roller.
Yes.
So that's why I think Walker's a really good player.
Walker was awesome in his preseason debut. Anything else from preseason you want to talk about?
No, I think we're pretty locked in. I think that's pretty good.
Next, then we will talk about the first week of the season for the Jazz, at least until we return to talk about it next Monday. The season opener and the home opener on Wednesday, they're going to host the LA Clippers, which we talked about a little bit. And then on Friday, they will be in Sacramento to face off against the Kings. One thing I will say, we'll talk a little bit right now, but also eventually on KSLSports.com and probably throughout the season, we're going to have game previews, me and Ben talking about each game before they come on.
Yeah, and not necessarily just like what you heard during this podcast.
Yes.
But other ones for video, YouTube, we'll put them in the articles and stuff as well. So if you want to watch video, if that's an easier way for you to do it, we will make that accessible for you as well. Clippers, it's a fun game. You get to see John Collins. Clippers are going to be a very good test. They should be one of the better teams in the West this year.
If you're wanting to see two healthy teams, or if you're wanting to see healthy teams play, then make sure you watch game 1 of the season for the Clippers.
That's usually the best bet. Not always. Yeah. We will see. And again, we'll see if Ace Bailey's out there.
True.
That's a big question. And we'll see if Kyle Anderson's out there. Kyle Anderson's also dealing with knee tendinopathy, which is tendonitis, which usually precautionary, but it can keep you sidelined. And we know we're not going to see George Niang yet, so he's still dealing with his foot injury. So there are some injuries, but the Clippers should be mostly healthy.
Am I imagining this, or was the season opener last year also home against the Clippers?
I think it might have been.
I think it was.
I have a real theory that the schedule maker copies and pastes things
and then just like
switches a couple of things around. Like it's like cheating off his friend's homework, but he's the friend. And I think some of that's logistical, right?
Yeah.
Like, certain teams have to be on the road because they host, the rodeo road trip for the Spurs or whatever it was. Like, I think some of that makes sense. They're like, this has consistently worked. Like the Jazz always play San Antonio on Halloween. Yeah. Right? They did last year. You covered that game. Mm-hmm. They're doing it again this year. They're just at San Antonio instead of home. Like, I actually think that's a thing. Yeah. I do think that you'll see some carryover there.
And then in Sacramento on Friday, Sacramento's not going to be great this year.
Sacramento's not good.
Yeah.
That'll be a good litmus test for the Jazz. Is like,
True.
if the Jazz lose at Sacramento and lose bad, it's like, this is going to be 65 losses again.
Yeah.
You can't make that that early of a determination, but like that will be a good sense of like, if the Jazz aren't good, you should be able to tell quickly because Sacramento should be really, really bad. Yeah. And the Jazz are probably going to be worse than there.
Yeah.
But really curious to see how Ace, if he plays against some of these teams that have some veterans. One of his issues against Dallas was he got into foul trouble. He picked up 2 fouls right away and then kind of tried to play timidly. And I kind of think it took him out of his offensive game as well because Ace was only 1 of 5 in that first half and was kind of like started to force shots for the first time that we'd seen in the preseason. I also think he was on the scouting report for the first time. I don't think he was in game 1 against Houston. Game 2, they probably didn't really think about it because it's preseason and he went off and looked so good again. And it was kind of passive in that game. He was much more aggressive in Houston's in the first game of the preseason. And then by game 3, Dallas is like, hey, man, we know what you are. Like, we've seen you. We're going to make sure you don't get to your mid-range really easily, and we're going to have a guy on you the whole time. Now what? And that's the pathway to growth for Ace Bailey.
True. Okay, we're going to do this every week as well. What is your 2-game first week prediction for the Jazz? What do they go, 1-1, 0-2, 0-2?
Yeah, I think the Clippers should be really good. Yeah. Honestly, if the Clippers are healthy, which is the big if, and they're not going to be, so they're not going to last that long. They're as deep as anybody in the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a bench that includes Chris Paul, Bradley Beal, John Collins, and Brook Lopez.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
But those guys are also all, other than John Collins, who's 29. I don't know how old Bradley Beal is, to be honest with you, but like those are guys who have played a lot of basketball.
Yeah.
And Brook is a shell of what he used to be, as is Chris Paul, truthfully. But they do really know how to play.
Yes.
So the depth there of just knowing how to play with a bench unit that is that deep should be beneficial. And then at the top, they're pretty good.
I will say for the Clippers and also like the Warriors, the question for them is, will they be able to like sustain in the playoffs after a long season? Because all of them are like 35 plus.
Mm-hmm. And the answer is probably not.
Yeah. But it's game 1. So it's probably going to be a heavily in favor of the Clippers. I agree with you that one. You know what? Today's one of the best days of the year for NBA nerds like me and you. Season starts tomorrow. You're pumped. You're as excited as you will be. I'm going to say 1-1 for the Jazz. I said they win in Sacramento.
Beat Sacramento.
Yeah, they squeak one out there.
Certainly possible.
Yeah.
Sacramento, look, if we're talking about the Jazz, winning more games than they did last year, and I don't have the Jazz. Let me see if I could pull it up quickly and see how many times the Jazz beat the Kings, if they did it all last year. I don't like to look at the schedule of like, what are they going to do here? I like to look at it in blocks of teams.
Yes.
It's like, are you going to go 4-0 against the Kings or 0-4 against the Kings? That's kind of how I do it. Let's see how the Jazz play against the Kings last year. They went 0-4. So it's like, are you going to go 0-4 this year against the Kings? Probably not.
Yeah.
You're probably going to pick up one of those. Now, it's probably going to be a game in Salt Lake City. I don't think it's going to be necessarily a game on the road. But, that's where you start to win 23, 24, 25 games as opposed to 17 is you beat the Clippers twice. You do beat the Wizards this year. You do beat Charlotte. I think the Jazz beat Charlotte last year. You sweep Brooklyn, as opposed to splitting those games. So I think that's going to be the difference this season.
Okay. Do we get into our preseason award predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So every year we predict all of the NBA awards, but specifically for Jazz players. I will say last year we had some good takes, some not so good takes.
Okay.
I will say I am proud of saying Walker Kessler for most improved last year. So we'll see if we can get some more right. Let's start with top of the ladder, MVP. Who do you have?
It should be Lowry.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance he doesn't finish the season with the team.
True.
Though, again, I've been told the Jazz are not shopping Lowry marketing, but if in February the Godfather offer comes, you have to listen.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it could. Lowry, as I wrote last week, I wrote a story about why does Lowry keep getting brought up in these trade conversations. It's because he fits everywhere.
Yeah.
At least conceptually, he fits everywhere. And that's even something that Austin Ainge talked about a lot during the media day availability that he had. He said Lowry's just so great because he fits with everybody. It's like, yeah, well, San Antonio knows that, and Detroit knows that, and all these teams know that. Golden State knows that, so if they want to improve. But I will just say Lowry. Lowry is by far the Jazz's best player.
I said Lowry as well. And here's the thing, even if he gets traded in February and it's 50 games under his belt with the Jazz and he's Eurobasket 24 point per game Lowry, I think no matter what, he's the MVP.
Can we do a new wrinkle this year? Can we do runner-up?
Yeah.
Can we do who our runner-up is? And I'm going to put Walker.
Okay.
I think Walker's going to be really good. I think Walker's on the verge of like a true breakout.
Yeah.
Like an NBA level breakout that the only difference might be that the Jazz don't win games, so no one talks about him. But I think there's a chance Walker ends up being really good this year.
Honestly, I would follow you in that. I like looking at the rest of the roster. There's no one that really sticks out to me as could be in that conversation other than Lowry and Walker.
Okay.
Defensive Player of the Year, also an easy one. Walker Kessler for me.
I mean, it should be Walker, right? Like he should average 4 stocks a game, and he's the best rebounder on the team, and those types of things really matter. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's very fair. Yeah, he should be.
It could be Taylor, but...
Yeah, we get a question about that, and I think it's a good question. We'll talk about that in the mailbag.
Okay.
But runner-up, I will say, runner-up, I'm going to go Cody Williams. And Cody may just not play at all. If we're talking about the young players and like who's going to play and who's not, and I kind of mentioned that. I suspect Cody's going to spend a lot of time in the G League. Mm-hmm. Like, he played okay against Dallas. I believe in Cody long-term. Like, I would not be I would keep extending his rookie contract. Now, the problem is he was a top 10 pick, so he gets a little bit more expensive than just like, we're going to let you hit free agency and then we're just going to sign you to a different deal. But like, honestly, the Jazz are not spending money right now. So I would just keep him around and just like see if you can get something going offensively. His on-ball defense is like very legitimate to me. Like he has really active hands. He gets in a lot of passing lanes. He does create a little bit of havoc there, which we talked about. Like maybe Keontae George could be valuable there. Mm-hmm. And like he's getting stronger. So he is slowing guys from going a straight line to the paint. The Jazz don't have anyone else who does that. I just don't think he's going to be on the floor. Yeah. Because I don't think he's going to play very much. So I would say maybe Cody would be my backup, but it should be Taylor.
Yeah. Rookie of the Year. This one's easy as well. Ace Bailey. Yeah.
Runner-up, Walt Clayton. The argument for Walt is that Walt plays more.
Yes.
If there's a chance that Walt ends up playing more and wins the starting job midway through the season, and teams aren't as keyed in on him as they will be with Ace Bailey. But yeah, this is obviously going to be Ace. And Ace Bailey is probably the Jazz's best chance to win Rookie of the Year since Donovan Mitchell should have won it over Ben Simmons.
Okay, that's the first 3. MVP Lowry, we agree on. Defensive Player Walker, we agree on. Rookie of the Year Ace, we agree on. The next 3 is where it gets tough. And I will say, in previous years, I felt like looking back, there was times where I was like, 4 awards, yeah, I'm gonna pick this guy, and I'm pretty confident on it. It could be these other guys. For me this year, it was either obvious or like a really hard toss-up decision I had to make. Next, 6th Man of the Year. Again, I feel like the Jazz are going to have a lot of different starting lineups, so it's
who's going to be the 6th man?
Yeah, the 6th man. And again, I was picking between a couple of different people here. I ended up going with Kyle Filipowski because I think that even if he does start day 1, I think eventually, as Taylor gets brought up and just how awesome he's been in the preseason, I would expect him to take that starting 4 spot. But again, it is a toss-up between those two, so I don't know exactly.
So I was really surprised against Portland that Kyle Filipowski started because I thought we had seen a lot from Taylor in the preseason. He had certainly played more than expected.
Yeah.
The fact that Kyle came off the bench against Dallas, which was his first game back, and didn't look particularly good. He didn't look good against Portland either. But then as soon as he was like kind of back and showed he could play, Will immediately thrust him into the starting lineup.
Yeah.
Makes me think he wants Kyle Filipowski to start. And I think the logic behind that, and I haven't asked Will, I can, I should and I will. I think you want to stagger the minutes between Kyle and Jusuf Nurkic.
Okay.
Because they are so bad defensively at the rim that's been a real problem for the Jazz. So I think if you can put Kyle with Walker and Nurkic with Taylor Hendricks, that makes some sense that at least you have like a rim protector on the floor at all times. At least the thought of a rim protector.
Yeah.
We will see how much Taylor actually does that. Again, we get a mailbag question about it, so I don't want to step on that yet. But I kind of think that would be the reasoning, is that Taylor is not really a great facilitator. He's not bad at it. He's a much better passer than I think he gets credit for. Mm-hmm. Kyle's good. Walker's not, though he had 8 assists the other day. Maybe he is good now. Yeah. And Lowry's certainly not. So Kyle being a facilitator in the front court who's not a rim protector, which gets covered up by Walker, those two should fit together conceivably somewhat well. And then the opposite is true, where Nurkic is a great facilitator but doesn't defend the rim, and Taylor can defend the rim a little bit but is not a great passer. I think it might make sense just like on paper to pair those two guys together, or those two pairings together early. That's kind of my theory, and why I won't be surprised if Kyle Filipowski ends up starting on Wednesday.
Maybe in March we'll see some late fourth quarter close game, Kyle Filipowski and Yusuf Nurkic on the floor together.
I would love to see Flip and Taylor Hendricks on the floor together.
Oh yeah,
a lot. I think those two could be really fun to play together. But I'll give you my answer, and I'm gonna go George Niang.
Okay,
George is gonna play a lot.
Yeah.
Here's the problem: he's not gonna be on the roster at the end of the season.
Yeah,
I think George is gonna get traded to a contender. He's got a tradable contract. He's a great shooter. Those types of guys tend to get traded. But I also think that means the Jazz will play him a lot because they want to show that he has value.
Yeah.
Nurkic will probably be the Jazz's most consistent contributor off the bench.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be the backup center. He should play a lot, at least 15 to 18 minutes a night. And he's good at what he does. Mm-hmm. And he will have enough like double-doubles out of nowhere and 5 assist games that where, there might be some nights where he's the Jazz's best center and plays him some opportunities. So I hate to waffle on that a little bit, but I will say George, even though I think he only plays like 40 games at most in Utah. We'll see. Maybe they hold on. But I'll go with George as the one, and then I'll go back up. Oh, you know what? No, I'm going to change. I'm going to change my mind. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let me back up. It's going to be Bryce Sensabaugh.
Bryce as your sixth man of the year?
Sixth man, because I don't think Bryce is going to start.
Yeah.
Maybe he should. And maybe the solution here for the Jazz isn't Taylor or Kyle. And maybe they both end up coming off the bench. And maybe at some point it's point guard, whether that's Walt or Key, Bryce, Ace at the 3, Lowry at the 4, Walker at the 5. That might end up being the lineup, but like midway through the year. I just don't think that's what's going to be the starting lineup. So let me go Bryce for my 6th man. I'm sorry. I talked around all these different circles and kind of ignored the guy who's been arguably the Jazz's best player in preseason.
Yeah. I was picking between Flip and Bryce for the 6th man of the year award. It was a tough one. The reason I ended up going with Flip is because maybe I'm projecting Taylor as being the starter because I like that lineup a bit more for the Jazz. But I also would love what you just said exactly, because I think Ace eventually will be a 3 full-time. Like, this is not the best comparison. We've been over this, but Kevin Durant played shooting guard for the Seattle Supersonics in his rookie year. Right. And then he went on to be a 3 and then a 4. Right. And I think that is a similar path for Ace.
Totally agree.
Okay. Most improved player. This is a hard one to project, but also a really fun one. I think my answer is going to depend on who you say. So who do you have for your most improved player?
Bryce Sensabaugh.
Bryce Sensabaugh?
Yeah, I hate to go with him 6th man and most improved, but I think Bryce could have a good year. I think Bryce could have a really good year.
I wrote Bryce Sensabaugh, but I figured you would say Bryce as well, so I'm changing my answer to Keontae.
Okay, that would be big. Keontae having a breakout year would be interesting for the Jazz. And again, he was the big talk of the offseason, and maybe it's there. But, I think Flip is good. Mm-hmm. I think Ace is going to be good. I think Walt's going to be good.
Yeah.
And I think Bryce is going to be good. You don't need all these guys to hit. But if all of a sudden randomly several of them are hitting, then it becomes really weird of like what do you do with this team?
Yeah.
All of a sudden all these young guys are playing well. And that's not going to be the case. Not all of them are going to play well. But we'll see.
Yeah. But like I said, I think Keontae has shown improvements in consistency. And I think every year of Keontae's career up to this point, we've been like, he needs to be more consistent and then he'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Like consistent and efficient.
Yep.
So that is it for most improved. And then last one, a newer award in NBA circles, clutch player of the year. I'll go first for this one. I'm picking the guy who I think is going to have the ball in his hands most of the year for the Jazz.
So we're going to pick the same guy.
Ace Bailey.
Yep. But you know what? And I'll throw the caveat in there.
Uh-huh.
Walt Clayton would be my runner-up.
Okay.
Walt's going to hit big shots.
Yeah.
Walt hit big shots at Florida. That's what he does. He's a big shot maker. And I think he's going to be on the floor in some of these situations. I think the Jazz's closing lineup might be Walt and Keontae together.
Yeah.
Because you want some on-ball creation.
True.
And those two guys can both do it. So that might be where Ace moves to the 3, and then Lowry at the 4, and Walker at the 5. That might be the Jazz's closing lineup.
True.
I could see that.
Okay, let's run over this real quick, then we'll get into the break and the mailbag. MVP, we agree, Lauri Markkanen. Defensive Player of the Year, we also agree, Walker Kessler. Rookie of the Year, we agree, Ace Bailey. Sixth Man of the Year is where we first...
Boring, yeah.
Is where we first disagreed. You had Bryce Sensabaugh, Sixth Man of the Year. I had Flip, although Bryce was my number 2. And then Most Improved, you had Bryce Sensabaugh again. I picked Keontae George. Clutch Player of the Year, Ace Bailey.
Yep. All right. We'll see. We were wrong on a lot of these last year. We were right on some of them last year. So that's how unpredictable this is, because I think if you were to poll our listeners, they would probably say a lot of those same answers.
True.
But things change quickly. So we will see which direction that heads and fun to track throughout the season. We'll revisit it at 41 games in and figure out where we are. All right. We'll take a break. When we come back, the Jazz mailbag. Stick around. More Jazz Notes coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson, Chandler Holt. All right, it is our final mailbag before the season starts, but I do like the mailbag segment. Not a ton of questions here. I think Jazz fans are just excited for the season to start, so understandably so. As always, find us on Twitter at Ben's Hoops or Holt Sports, same at Blue Sky. And you can wait for my prompt and respond with there. You can just send me a DM, or you can just at me like Todd Crow did today, so we will answer those as well. On Blue Sky, quickly, Alex says, loving Taylor's aggression on offense in the post in the preseason. His strength is really visible on that side of the ball, but hasn't really popped on defense. Any theories why he has had a slower start on defense, to your eyes at least? I think you're exactly right. His strength down low has been really obvious offensively. Like he is pushing guys out of the way and then finishing on top of the rim, or like finishing near the basket. It's a really promising sign.
Yes.
I think that's a really good sign. Defensively, it's because he is not a 5.
Yeah.
He's having to move out to the perimeter a lot. Like basically you have one interior defender in the NBA now. And then you have maybe a guy who can help as kind of a weak side shot blocker a little bit. But he's being asked to be more of like a rotate after defending maybe the best player on the court. And at Central Florida, he was the free safety. I told you I'd pay that off. Like that's who he was. He just got to roam back there at Central Florida. And while they sometimes played another big guy, like he was such a good shot blocker that he would just rotate over and was bigger than everybody. It's not his job anymore. So I don't think he knows how to do it.
Yeah.
I think it's that simple. I don't think he knows how to do it. And I will say one of the big things for the Jazz this year that's I think Will Hardy's a really good coach. It's the question I will have for them going forward is like, what do you want to do on defense? Like they kind of played with the zone a lot, and it's like, we didn't do that, and then we did it, and we liked it, and it came back to it. It's like, what's your base defense? Like, what are the rules of your defense? And are they obvious when you see it? Because I know a lot it was like, stop the ball at the basket. And they used to do weird things like, in transition, you would see a Jazz player not pick up the ball. They would just run directly to the rim and be like, we think we're better off if we just have a guy at the rim versus even like trying to stop a guy on the dribble. And that will help with our transition defense. I don't know what the Jazz's like real philosophy is other than what I've heard, but you don't necessarily always see it. So can the players be taught something that they can execute? Even if they go from the 30th best defense to 25th, it's progress. But 30th back-to-back years, I think, is what it is. Mm-hmm. It's like there's no even concept of what they're supposed to be doing. At least they're not picking up on it seems like.
Taking it back to Taylor and the strength question, I think, like you said, a lot of times he's on the perimeter. And then when he does play post defense, a lot of times he's on a 5. Like he was guarding Young Hansen for the Trailblazers in the last game. On a handful of possessions. It's like, well, those guys are just bigger than him, so they're stronger than him, even though he has put on a lot of weight. And then when you're on the perimeter, it's harder to see like strength in effect. But like a couple times you'll see Taylor like cut off a dribble, and then if they can't get around him, that's strength. Mm-hmm. So that's like a way you can see it.
Yeah.
But it isn't as noticeable as like if he were to like have, this is a terrible example, Denny Avdia. I don't think it happened, but if Denny Avdia went against him in the paint, Taylor would probably hold him off.
Yeah, he would be fine.
Yeah. So
no, Taylor's not doing a good job with backdoor cuts right now and knowing like how to stop that, because I do think he is watching like, I have to be the last line of defense, and that's actually Walker's job. So he's like thinking that way, and so he's not necessarily keeping an eye on where his man is or where those cutters are coming from. So that's been one of the other issues. Yeah, and he's just got to get better at it. Yep. He's played 42 games in the NBA. Like he's just not played a whole lot. I think that sometimes that is the wisdom of being on the court that we just haven't had the opportunity to see yet. All right, this is a tough one from Jake the Lynx. We'll have to talk through this a little bit. Hypothetically, if NBA expansion was today, which 8 players on the Jazz would you protect? I know it's preseason, and then he says, I know it's preseason, but Walker was awesome in that game, right? We talked about Walker a little bit.
Yes.
Here's the thing. I would think now, because there are 15 roster spots, and the last time there was expansion, I think there was 12, you would probably get like 11 guys you could protect now, at least 10. I don't think it would be just 8 because there's just too much depth in the NBA right now. But we could walk through this. I'm curious if the Jazz would have anybody picked in an expansion draft.
Yeah. First of all, let me say, as a Seattle sports fan, this should happen. Anyways, let's
You'd
keep
love
going.
to see this. So Lowry,
Yes.
Walker, Ace, Walt, Bryce,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Who's your last pick? I think it's Kyle.
You think it's wait? We're only getting 7 picks.
Oh, that was 7. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm doing my math.
I think
here.
Kyle gets protected as well.
Kyle gets protected. So who's your 8th? We have not mentioned Keontae, Isaiah, any of the veterans.
Yeah.
Cody.
I'm protecting Keontae over Cody and all the veterans, I think.
Over Isaiah?
Yeah.
I think I probably am too.
Yeah.
And what's funny is in that situation, you could lose. I guess they can only take 1 player per team, if I remember correctly. Who would they take? Isaiah or Cody? Cody's a top 10 pick.
That's true. But and then it's like a
and Isaiah has a true fatal flaw.
Yes.
He cannot shoot.
But here's the thing, even with that said, I think Isaiah has a higher floor than Cody Williams does.
Cody Williams also can't shoot, apparently, which he did in college, and on very limited attempts, and has not shot well since. So, yeah, maybe they take Isaiah, and you get to keep Cody. Yeah. I think that would be what they're picking between. And then, they might take a George Niang, actually, and just be like, yeah, we want a serviceable player.
True.
Or a Nurkic, like, we want a starting center.
If it's 2 teams, and I don't know the rules on this exactly, 2 teams in an expansion draft, right? Mm-hmm. Do each of them get to take a player, or is it like once a team gets a player taken, then they're off?
I don't remember what happened with Toronto and Vancouver, to be honest with you. I remember the Charlotte one because the Jazz lost Sasha Pavlovich.
Because if it is that, I think it would be, if say the Jazz can lose 2 players from 2 different teams in the expansion draft, I think it would be Isaiah and then someone like George Niang.
Okay, you don't think it would be Cody?
It's hard to say. I don't know.
Cody has not been particularly good. And you know what? You look around the NBA right now, and this has been something I've kind of been tracking on Twitter. If you follow me, you've seen it. It's just like, man, the number of guys from even that draft, like Dylan Jones is out of a job, who went to Weaver State, was in Cody's draft, is out of a job already. That draft was truly disastrous. Yeah. That was a horrendous draft. And guys in front of Cody have been bad. Guys behind Cody have been bad. The Jazz probably missed on Modest Buzelis. They probably should have picked him. Yeah. That's looking like an early whiff for the Jazz right now. And I liked Cody more than Modest too, but that's the hard part about playing in the G League in that horrible system that they were playing in. But like, no one's killing it from that draft. Jared McCain has been the best player, and he can't get on the floor. He's always hurt. So, yeah, it's a disastrous draft. Like if you walk away and flips like a rotation player, you probably had a good draft, considering how terrible that year ended up being. So anyways, really interesting. Good question. That's a fun question to go through. All right. Todd Crow asked a couple of questions on Twitter. I'll just pick one. He says, is it me or does Walt look much better running things than Keontae? I'm not sure my heart can handle the anxiety and fear of 8-second violations and starting the offense 30 feet out with 13 seconds left on the shot clock. That is a major issue for Keontae. Not the 8-second thing. Like, he's done that a couple of times, but like, Keontae really walks up the court slowly, and then by the time he gets across half court, it's like, there's 14 seconds left. Yeah. Like, half the clock is gone. You've really got to move quickly now, and now you're making bad decisions because, the defense doesn't have to play that hard because they don't have to play that long. Whereas I think Walt still probably needs to figure out his pace a little bit, but Walt seems to know how to really – he does some read and react stuff that I think is different than what Keontae does. Like, I talked about running the ball up against Drew Holiday, kicking it to Nurkic, and realizing, hey, Drew fell asleep. Why don't I just cut to the basket? Like, that's a read. That's not the play, I don't think. That's the read. And he did that really well. If he can do that, again, it's why I think he is going to be the starter by the end of the year, and I've predicted that since way before even the draft. I said whoever drafts him is getting their starting point guard 5 years from now. And I think the same thing is true for the Jazz, but I could see that. I mean, I think Walt has something that Will Hardy has asked for a lot is sometimes you just need to go play basketball. Yeah. Like, I know we have a game plan, but if a guy hits 3 threes in a row, what would you do in pickup basketball? Wouldn't you just guard him differently? And we don't do that enough. And I say we. I'm talking from Will Hardy's perspective. Yes. I promise you, I'm not saying we, the Jazz. I don't represent the Jazz at all, nor do I care to. But I'm just saying, like, that's how Will has talked. Yeah. That's where I think maybe Walt is a little more natural at it. He's just played a lot of basketball. He played 4 years of college basketball, Yeah. Sometimes I just think he has a little bit of that maybe already understanding of like in-game adjustment quickly that other teams may not have.
And I really agree with you on the Keontae thing. And I think that's something that basketball players learn very early on is that if you're going too fast and you need to slow it down means get across half court with 20 seconds left and run the offense. It doesn't mean start the offense with like a pick and roll with 10 seconds left. Like the only time you're doing that is if you're Damian Lillard or Kevin Durant and you need to hit a game winner. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Like that's just bad basketball, honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that, and I think that what you're saying is 100% right. 4 years of college basketball, being the guy for at least 2 years of those, like the guy,
and has been a point guard his whole career.
Yes.
Remember, Keontae played small forward for times at Baylor. Like this is all new to him. And as much as I my biggest draft thing, I think I probably said this in the offseason, like I hate the like late bloomer. I hate the like he's new to basketball. I'm like, why is that a plus?
Yeah.
Give me the guy who's been playing that position his entire life.
Yes.
There's one thing about Anthony Davis played point guard his whole life and then all of a sudden was 6'10". Okay, that's cool. But like not the guy who's like, yeah, I'm seeing these things for the first time. That's bad.
Yeah.
Keontae having to figure this out, some of this stuff in the NBA for the first time is horrible. I hate that. Walt's been doing this his entire life. I love that. Yeah. So that's, again, where I think some of those natural tendencies tend to break through.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to the actual mailbag. I think that's all the ats I've got.
Over to X. First up from Josh. Realistic season averages for Ace. How much of the 2 preseason games will carry over and be consistent through the season?
So we touched on this, I think, before the games even started.
Yes.
And I said like 14 points a game. I think maybe I just talked about it. I was on Locke's podcast and I may have said 14 a game. Here's the thing. I think he's going to get 13 shots a game.
Yeah.
Like that quickly, he's shown he can handle that. And he might be better than anyone else, he and Keontae, at just getting his shot off, which is a skill.
Yeah.
A really hard thing to do in the NBA. Ace does it way better than Keontae because he's 6'7" or whatever and, can jump really high, and Keontae's 6'1". So that's the advantage for Ace. So because I think he's going to average 13 attempts a game or something like that, 12 to 13, probably you'd say I'm going to probably up that to like 16 points a game.
Yeah.
Like I think 16 to 17 points a game is very realistic for him.
And he's
going to be a top 3 scorer on the team this year.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair take. The one thing that makes me want to even maybe go higher than that is the fact that, one, like we both agree, we think he's going to get the ball in late game situations. Like I think like the Jazz trust him to I think maybe Lauri Markkanen is the only player with a greener light than Ace Bailey. And you could even argue that Ace Bailey has more of a green light than Lauri this year. But yeah, I think 16, 17, and then another interesting thing, probably 6 rebounds a game-ish, maybe around that area?
Yeah, 5, 6.
Yeah. And then probably 1 or 2 assists a game.
Yeah, he's not going to be a great reads guy, but he's certainly already shown to be a much better passer than he was at Rutgers. So yeah, I'm looking at 16, 6 and 2. I think is, I don't want to say conservatively, but I would more likely to believe he goes 26 and 2 than he goes 12, 4 and 2.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Which is why I'm going to split the difference and go 16 points. But more likely he averages more than that than way less.
I was about to say, I think it's more 20 points to me, just what we've seen from Ace Bailey, seems more possible than 12. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just think he's too natural of a scorer. Now teams will dial in on him and maybe he can. The nice thing is he doesn't have to do everything. Yeah. He can really, as we saw in his second game against San Antonio, he can just be a spot-up shooter.
True.
He doesn't have to go and create for himself. And there was a great article, I think I touched on it last week. He had 26 points on 23 dribbles or whatever it was through his first 2 games. It's that rules. Yeah. Guys who don't have to dribble, it's not just that he's having everything set up for him, because we talked about attacking the basket from the perimeter and either dribbling once or not dribbling at all and how unique that is and those physical tools. But also the fact that, he doesn't have to dribble a whole lot to get to shots is nice. That doesn't mean he's not really creating. He's not 3 dribble, has he pull up Jimbo. He's just he's doing his thing. So
one thing I do want to add, which I don't know if I've said at any point in our podcast recently, I don't want Ace to hide in the corner on offense. There have been, especially in the Spurs game, I noticed it, I feel more than usual, where he would just sit there and he wouldn't even cut or set a screen or move. He would just sit there and then another shot would go up and he'd get back. Even though he can be a great catch and shoot player, I think the best investment for the Jazz would be to have him coming off of screens all the time, have him backdoor cutting all the time. Basically, if you're not getting the ball, move. I think that would be the best case scenario for Ace, to just put him in as many different situations as possible.
Yeah, I think obviously it's going to depend on the play they're running, obviously. Yes. Or is he the first guy running in transition? If you don't have a pathway to the rim, your job is to run and space the floor. So the second guy coming has a pathway to the rim because they have to worry about you as well. Yep. That's where he does have some real skill there, but he is so good that he should be just a pin down king for the Jazz this year, where yes, he goes to the corner to start the possession. He needs to know, this is where Dalton Connect stinks. It's The Dalton Connect should be really good at these same pin downs, right? Like floor spacer with the Lakers, and then if it's not there and he's not getting the ball, he comes off a curl and like is right there at 15 feet. And his decision is rise up 15-footer or drive to the basket and finish on top of the hoop. And he's athletic enough to do it. Aces too. Can Ace make that read over and over of I'm coming off the curl, whether that's Walker on the DHO or Nurkic on the DHO, and there's going to be a ton of those. Can I get to that 15-footer and just rise up and shoot it, which he can. Yeah. And he's shown it over and over in his first 2 preseason games, or get to the basket. He just has to recognize it. Yeah. I think that's probably the biggest thing for him is recognizing, like, how do I impact the game without dribbling? And he's seemed willing to do it so far.
All right, next up from Jazz Time Jones. Can you explain why I have to watch Svi play in a Jazz uniform? Never seen a guy go rogue and not get pulled immediately.
I do think he's the Jazz's tanker this year. Like, if they want the cooler, if you want to lose games, you play Svi because he's not good. Yeah. And with all due respect to Svi, like, he does not really help you. He probably runs everything right, and I bet you it's sometimes if you're a coach, it's kind of nice. Then again, there are times when he clearly gets the ball and is just like, dribble, run to the basket and dribble. But he probably is in the right space, right place most of the time, which might be helpful. But I honestly don't expect to see Svi at all in the rotation. Yeah, I think we have seen the last of Svi in the preseason. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Certainly when George Niang comes back, you're not going to see Svi anymore. Yes. Like, if the idea is just you want a proven floor spacer out there, George is way better at it than Svi is and is just going to catch and shoot.
And I could be wrong, but I feel like the preseason and even like summer league for some of the young guys, Kevin Love played 18 minutes a game, and he's not going to play 18 minutes a game for the Jazz. So it's just like you're seeing things you're not going to see in the regular season.
Yeah, I think they were. I mean, Mo Bamba played. Yeah, you know.
Connor Morris, last one here, I believe. Did the preseason change your in-season minutes prediction for Taylor Hendricks? And then he has a follow-up question. We can answer that first. Yeah, I think so.
He was healthy.
Yeah.
You know, I was told that the Jazz were going to bring him along really slowly, that there was kind of like a total question mark. And I think he's just far exceeded expectations. So we'll see. Again, he might get winded. He might, midway through the season, he might really be like, his legs are gone. So I think some of that's probably worth keeping an eye on. But no, I think we're going to see a lot of him, and rightfully so. He's been great. Yeah. Not great, but like way better than I expected.
Yes. Absolutely awesome phrasing on this question. Also from Connor Morris. Why do the Jazz want less Bamba and not Mo Bamba?
Mo is funny. I mean, Mo's just not a good NBA player. Now, it is funny. Like, if you were to go into the lab and create an NBA body, it's Mo. Yeah. Like, honestly, to the point where like you would say it's Victor, and it's like it probably is, but even Victor, you might be like there's a rumor that he's 7'7" now. Like, he's actually 2 inches taller than he's being reported at 7'5". It's like at some point you do worry that you're too big. Yeah. None of those guys have ever stayed healthy, or they turn into Sean Bradley and they're just kind of lumbering up and down the floor, and they're not like you're almost too stretched out. You're almost putting too much stress on your body. Mo Bamba's body is absurd. Yeah. Like, it's so great. Long arms. He hit the three. Like, he has some real physical tools. I was talking to a guy who had recruited him, and it was like, you would not believe what the talk was about this guy in AAU, of just like the lofty expectations for who he was going to be. So, but he's just not that good. He's just really inconsistent is the problem. He just like doesn't do a whole lot well enough. And the Jazz already have a ton of young guys that need minutes to develop. So go throw them in the G League. And again, what I've told you is what the Jazz like in the G League is guys who replicate what they do at the NBA level. So when you go and you put Cody down there, or if John Tonji has to play down there, which John will play a lot down there, or randomly Walt's struggling and he has to go play down there, like, he's playing with guys who do enough things that he doesn't have to like randomly play Walker Kessler's role, where it's like, well, if I want our team to have the ball, I have to be a really good rebounder, or like we give up a basket every time because we don't have anyone behind me to block shots the way Walker does. Okay, well, Mo goes down to the G League and does that, and kind of replicates a little bit of what Walker does. So I think that's some of the value.
Last one from Connor Morris, and a fun one as well. If you ate 5K calories a day like Cody, what would you eat?
I could do it. You could. It's funny when you turn almost 40, it gets a lot easier to be like, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I could easily throw that down. Get really lazy. And again, Cody's eating like all the best foods. I bet it's hard to eat 5K of good 5K calories of good food. Exactly. Versus, you know what I mean? Like 3 Big Macs and
Cheeto Puffs.
Yeah, right. Yeah, whatever. You're just like snacking on everything. And like every piece of like Halloween candy I see, I put in my mouth, which is my problem right now also. But it would be like great breakfast. You know what I mean? Like certainly like French toast every morning.
Massive breakfast.
Yeah, and multiple of them, and
Yes.
as much bacon as I can get into my mouth
Yeah.
one time. And then like a nap. And then you wake up and you're like still picking at whatever bacon is left over, if there is any. And then it's like French dip sandwiches, and then for dinner,
Just
pizza.
like an insane amount of protein. Like chicken sandwiches, like grilled chicken sandwiches. Not
See,
fried.
mine might just be carbs.
Yeah.
That's my problem, is it would just be like pizza.
Yeah.
Like, I had French toast, bread, and then I had a French dip sandwich. It's all French food, apparently.
Yeah.
And then, I'll have pizza every night.
I'll tell you, I would have steak Alfredo every single night if I was trying to.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like just like hearty, but also like so much protein, and also like usually steak Alfredo's like oily, has a few extra fats in there. Yeah. Good question from Connor.
Yeah.
I like that. Now I'm hungry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's lunchtime. We're hungry now. All right. Jazz season is coming up next. When we come back on Monday, we will have a couple of games to talk about. Again, look for our kind of game previews. We'll do some 90-second, 3-minute. We'll see how long we want to talk about these teams. Probably depends on the team.
Yeah.
But give you some previews, and those will come out throughout the week, probably on game day.
Yeah.
So excited for that. Thanks to everyone following. Read us at KSLSports.com. Find us on social media, Ben's Hoops and Holt Sports. We'll talk to you next week.